stop being nice to men, do this instead. Good evening, everyone. It's time we have a conversation about something many of us have been conditioned to accept being nice. Not kind, not genuine, but nice. And when it comes to how we interact with men in particular, nice often translates to being small, agreeable, and, quite frankly, invisible. But here's the truth: being nice is a mask we wear to avoid discomfort. It's about seeking approval, not connection. And what's worse, it doesn't honor who we are or who they are. So today I want us to explore a shift and move away from nice and toward authenticity, courage, and meaningful relationships. Let's break this down together. Seeking approval often stems from a desire to be liked, accepted, or validated by others. It's a deeply ingrained behavior, especially for those raised to believe their worth is tied to how pleasing or agreeable they can be. When approval becomes the goal, we may find ourselves saying yes when we mean no, agreeing when we don't feel aligned, or withholding our true opinions out of fear of judgment. This pattern of behavior leads to a version of ourselves that feels incomplete, unseen, and unfulfilled. Respect, on the other hand, doesn't rely on bending to meet someone else's expectations. It is rooted in authenticity and self-assuredness. Valuing respect means prioritizing integrity over popularity. It requires standing firm in your values, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. When you shift your focus from approval to respect, you invite others to see and engage with the real you, not the curated, compliant version designed to avoid conflict. Respect fosters equality in relationships. It moves away from a dynamic where one person's comfort or desires dictate the behavior of the other. Instead, it creates space for mutual understanding where boundaries are honored and both parties feel seen and heard. This shift demands courage. It's not about arrogance or dominance, but rather about standing confidently in your truth while extending the same to others. Kindness and niceness are often conflated, but they stem from very different intentions. Niceness is performative. It's about pleasing others, avoiding conflict, and maintaining a surface-level harmony. It can involve suppressing your needs, silencing your opinions, or going along with situations that don't align with your values. Niceness is often transactional, driven by the desire to be liked or to avoid rejection. Kindness, in contrast, is rooted in authenticity and empathy. It isn't about being agreeable for the sake of keeping the peace. It's about acting with compassion while staying true to yourself. Kindness may involve difficult conversations or setting boundaries, not out of anger, but out of care for yourself and for others. It is honest and transparent, even when the truth might be uncomfortable. Where niceness is often a mask to avoid discomfort or conflict, kindness acknowledges the messiness of real relationships. It values integrity over approval and recognizes that true connection requires vulnerability and courage. Kindness respects the needs of both parties, offering care without self-sacrifice. By choosing kindness over niceness, you create space for deeper, more meaningful relationships that honor the humanity in both yourself and others. Discomfort is an unavoidable part of growth, authenticity, and meaningful connection. Yet many of us are conditioned to avoid it at all costs, retreating into patterns of compliance, avoidance, or denial to maintain a sense of safety. While this avoidance may bring temporary relief, it often leads to a deeper sense of dissatisfaction, resentment, or disconnection over time. Embracing discomfort means recognizing it as a necessary step in building a life rooted in truth and integrity. It is about choosing courage over comfort, knowing that the moments when we feel uneasy or vulnerable are often the moments that matter most. That whether it's setting a boundary, standing up for yourself, or having an honest conversation, discomfort is the price of authenticity. When you embrace discomfort, you allow space for transformation. It pushes you to confront the fears, insecurities, and habits that may be holding you back. It challenges you to act with intention rather than reaction, and to honor your values even when it feels challenging. Discomfort is also a sign that you're stepping out of autopilot and into the conscious work of creating relationships and a life that reflect who you truly are. In relationships, embracing discomfort can lead to deeper trust and connection. It's about being honest, even when it might lead to conflict, and being open, even when vulnerability feels risky. True intimacy requires the courage to show up fully, even in the face of uncertainty. Through discomfort, we not only grow stronger, but also develop the resilience and clarity needed to navigate the complexities of life and relationships with grace. Speaking your truth is one of the most courageous acts you can undertake, yet it's often one of the hardest. Fear of judgment, rejection, or conflict can make it tempting to remain silent, downplay your feelings, or conform to others' expectations. Over time, this silence erodes your sense of self, leaving you disconnected from your own needs and values. When you choose to speak your truth, even when your voice shakes, you honor yourself in the most profound way. It's not about being confrontational or demanding, it's about expressing your feelings, boundaries, and perspectives with honesty and clarity. It requires acknowledging that your voice matters, even if it feels small or unsure at the moment. The vulnerability of speaking your truth can be intimidating, but it is also deeply liberating. It creates space for genuine connection and understanding, allowing others to see and know the real you. While not everyone may respond positively, your truth is not about pleasing others, it's about living authentically and standing in alignment with who you are. Speaking your truth also sets a powerful example for others. When you show up authentically, you give others permission to do the same. It's an act of courage that fosters an environment where honesty and integrity can thrive. Even if your voice shakes, it's a sign of your bravery, a reminder that the strength of your message isn't diminished by your fear, but amplified by your willingness to face accommodating is a behavior rooted in the desire to keep the peace, avoid conflict, or gain approval by putting others' needs and desires ahead of your own. While it can feel like an act of care or generosity, it often comes at the cost of your emotional well-being, personal boundaries, and sense of self. Over time, it creates a dynamic where you diminish your own voice and needs to serve others, leading to feelings of frustration, resentment, or burnout. Stopping the habit of over-accommodating begins with recognizing that your worth isn't tied to how much you do for others or how agreeable you can be. When you constantly adjust to meet others' expectations, you not only lose touch with your own needs, but also teach others to expect more than is reasonable or healthy. Relationships thrive on mutuality, not one-sided effort or sacrifice. This shift requires developing and honoring your boundaries. Boundaries aren't about being rigid or unkind. They're about recognizing your limits and communicating them clearly. When you stop over-accommodating, you create space for others to take responsibility for their own needs and actions. It's not your job to solve every problem, anticipate every desire, or cushion every disappointment. Stopping over-accommodation also invites greater authenticity into your relationships by showing up as your whole self, asserting your needs, saying no when necessary, and allowing others to experience the natural consequences of their actions. You cultivate interactions based on respect and equality. This doesn't mean you stop being caring. It means you offer care without sacrificing yourself in the process. Healthy relationships don't just happen. They are built intentionally through mutual respect, open communication, and consistent effort. Modeling healthy relationships means embodying the principles and behaviors you wish to see in your connections with others. It's about leading by example, demonstrating how to show up authentically, and fostering a dynamic that encourages growth and trust on both sides. At the core of healthy relationships is self-awareness. You can't model healthy interactions without understanding your own needs, boundaries, and triggers. When you are clear about what you value and communicate those values openly, you set the foundation for a relationship that is built on honesty and mutual understanding. This clarity allows others to engage with you from a place of respect and authenticity, rather than guesswork or assumptions. Modeling healthy relationships also involves practicing accountability. This means owning your mistakes, apologizing sincerely, and working to repair harm when it occurs. It also means holding others accountable in a way that is constructive rather than punitive. Accountability builds trust and demonstrates that conflict or missteps, when handled with care, don't have to damage the relationship, they can strengthen it. Boundaries are another key element. Healthy relationships thrive when both parties understand and respect each other's limits. By setting and maintaining boundaries, you teach others that self-care is not selfish, it's essential. Boundaries also allow relationships to remain balanced, preventing one person from consistently overextending themselves or relying too heavily on the other. Communication is the lifeblood of healthy relationships. This means not just speaking honestly, but also listening actively and empathetically. By showing that you value understanding over being right, you create a safe space where all parties feel heard and valued. Healthy communication involves asking questions, clarifying intentions, and addressing misunderstandings promptly rather than letting them fester. Finally, modeling healthy relationships means celebrating mutual growth. A healthy relationship is not static, it evolves as the individuals within it grow. By supporting each other's personal development and celebrating achievements, you cultivate a partnership or connection that feels enriching and empowering rather than limiting. When you model these behaviors, you set a standard for others to follow. You demonstrate what respect, empathy, and integrity look like in action, inspiring others to engage in relationships that honor the humanity and individuality of everyone involved. So, let me leave you with this: the path to meaningful relationships starts with a commitment to yourself. It's about letting go of old patterns like niceness, over-accommodation, and approval seeking, and replacing them with courage, authenticity, and self-respect. When you choose to show up as your full, unapologetic self, you invite deeper, more fulfilling connections into your life. You set the tone for relationships that honor your worth, challenge you to grow, and nurture your well-being. The world doesn't need more people playing small to avoid discomfort. It needs people who are brave enough to be real. So stop being nice, start being true. Because when you step into your power, you create space for others to do the same. And that's how we build lives and relationships that truly matter.